Welcome back to the program. Joining me now is John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Always good to see you. Usually it's virtual, today in person. I appreciate you being here.
Which is better, virtual or in person?
Sometimes I like seeing you virtually, and sometimes I like seeing you in person.
Sometimes you don't like seeing me at all. That works. Works for everybody. Okay.
Good. Well, thank you for being
Glad
here.
to be here.
I appreciate you taking a break from your Life Quest class. Give me a quick update on how that's going for you.
You know, it's restored since COVID, when I was doing it virtually.
Yes.
And we didn't have the audiences we'd had. We're back over 300.
That's awesome.
In the Second Press Sanctuary. I think I'm outdrawing the preacher, but he doesn't like me to say that. He may dispute that. So that's a controversial.
This is a
remark.
class that John teaches
Senior
every
life,
Wednesday.
yeah.
Yes.
Senior life learning.
Observations about.
You know, it turns out there's a lot of interest right now in the presidential race.
Right.
Does that surprise you at all?
And not at
Okay,
all, but
yeah.
we will talk about that later.
All right.
I want to start first with the Arkansas Supreme Court. You've written a couple columns on this. We've obviously been keeping up with developments on this. Let's see, some court members have referred another court member to judicial discipline, and then another one referred the rest of them to judicial discipline. I want you to explain the drama of what is going on at the Arkansas Supreme Court.
Really? And
Yeah.
You've encouraged me to keep my answer short?
I've got a short period of time here for you to do it.
It's a partisan petty group, frankly. Not call any names, but I'll just say in general, you've got a partisan Republican group, which and then you've got some people who are manipulative and rivals with each other, and they're sniping at each other, and basically some on the court wanted to try to get back within their operations budget by moving some offices, the administrative offices, to cheaper quarters, and some people rose up and tried to leverage friendship with one of the justices. And then Arkansas Business wanted to see the emails between those two, and everything that we knew but didn't see, we now see. They just don't like each other. They don't function well, and we've got now 5 of the 6, no, all of them, basically, except Karen Baker, have assigned each other to detention hall, basically. And as I put it in a column, they're supposed to be the school board setting the policy. They're actually the role for after-school detention hall, basically. I say it's like the Breakfast Club. Remember the movie The Breakfast Club on Saturday? I do remember the movie The Breakfast Club. But in that case, these kids of different cultural backgrounds and different values and styles became closer. I don't think that's going to happen here. No. I don't hold out much hope for
and
that.
After this Chief Justice race, which pits Karen Baker versus Rhonda Wood, and I think they're on opposite sides of this drama we're describing.
Faction, yes, factionalism.
The loser will still be on the Arkansas Supreme Court.
Please, people need to understand this. 2 of them, the rivals, Karen Baker and Rhonda Wood, are the candidates for Chief Justice of the Supreme Court to replace Dan Kemp, who has been decided to retire because of the age and retirement issue for judges. And people think, and Baker wrote the dissent on the epic abortion ruling, and Wood wrote the main order. And this has become kind of a proxy, and they're fighting each other, and people are out there deciding which one to vote for Chief Justice based on their view of that case, many of them. When in fact, they're both still going to be on the court. They're both still going to be writing their opinions, having their differences. The nature of the court philosophically is not going to change. The Chief Justice gets another $15,000 or $20,000 a year to handle all the administrative minutia, which is what it is.
Yeah.
But Wood wanted it, and then Baker didn't want her to have it. May be what's happening, so she's running. But you're not going to, if you want to get rid of one or the other, you're not going to do it. In fact, your governor, Sarah Sanders, is going to get to make 1 or 2 more appointments, and she already has a 4-court block that seems to favor her considerably in many of their leanings. So it's basically, we're going to have one of these rivals is going to be the Chief Justice, making a little more money and doing some administrative stuff. And then there's that old George Fisher cartoon in which the entire legislature, all their faces were Orville Faubus.
Right.
You're going to have a Supreme Court in which all their faces, no matter their personalities, it's going to be your governor, Sarah Sanders. She have appointed several, a few, and another few or come out of Republican headquarters or plainly partisan leaning. And okay, they would say reliably conservative in their justicing
versus reliably liberal. So,
right.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about one of the rulings that the court made this week. They got involved in a big brouhaha over the medical marijuana amendment proposal. Secretary of State John Thurston decides they didn't meet the signature threshold. There's an immediate appeal to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court orders him to count those signatures, and we're kind of in the middle of that legal process right now. I mean, it's hard to look into the crystal ball and predict, is it going to make the ballot or not? But what's your read on how the Supreme Court is approaching this medical marijuana amendment? What do you think the odds are for it surviving?
This is more complex than a simple, I think it's going to go one way or another. First of all, do you remember that piece I wrote for your online magazine thing at the start of the year, which said that the big story in Arkansas this year is going to be the increased use of citizen initiative and ballot issues as the loyal opposition to the Republican control, because the Democrats are so inept, and we're going to have the FOI enshrined in the Constitution. We're going to have an abortion proposal.
There was education proposal.
We're going to limit the Learns Act. All these, they're all gone.
Right.
And the legislature steadily made it harder to get those on the ballot. And there was, at least in the abortion case, a very controversial 4-3 ruling, to which we previously referred, that threw it off. In the others, the progressive groups just didn't get their signatures. So all of that is like a tremendous letdown. And now the medical marijuana, which would expand the people who could prescribe medical marijuana, widen its use, it's now in purgatory, sort of, and that's what this is all about. And you're asking me how I think it's going to turn out. I don't know. I know that the governor and Republican thinking opposes the proliferation of ballot issues, and they don't like culturally liberal or things like medical marijuana. The people do. If it's a strict Republican conservative leaning, I would expect the court reliably to throw it off. But medical marijuana
has some bipartisan appeal.
It leads straight up in just a generic discussion in your polling.
Right.
So does this become a proxy? Does one of the Chief Justice candidates go one way and one go the other, and will it become a proxy? I don't know. I just know that we were going to have a big year for a lot of important things, and we're down to lottery money going to vocational education, maybe whether Polk County can stop its casino, but that's also in limbo.
Correct.
And maybe this marijuana thing, odds are you go by conventional thinking, it's a conservative court, they don't like ballot issues, they'll find a way to throw this off. But this is the second, like abortion, that after the fact, after accepting the petitions, Secretary of State's office said, oh wait, you didn't do this administrative detail. It has nothing to do, so therefore we throw out this number of paid canvasser gathered signatures, and therefore you're off. It's not really fair to do things that way in my view, but that's what this is going to come down to.
Right.
And it's expedited now. We've got to get it decided. It's going to be on the ballot. The issue now is whether you can vote on it or whether the votes count.
Right.
And that's where we are on
I guess
that.
we're already almost at the early voting stage.
It's too
here,
late
so,
to turn
yeah.
back now on the ballot, yeah.
All right, last topic to kind of get to, vice presidential debate this week, J.D. Vance versus Tim Walz. What was your take on the debate, and does it change the calculus in the presidential race?
I believe that part of Kamala Harris's gains recent in polls have had to do with a popular pick of a likable guy in Tim Walz. I believe a part of Trump's being stagnant, mostly it's Trump's behavior, but Vance has had a horrible introduction with all these things he said that people find offensive. If you accept that premise, then Vance needed to burnish his image. He needed to make himself seem nicer. He did it. He performed well. Walz didn't perform as well, but after all, his whole appeal, he's kind of a regular guy and kind of overly emotive there and a little odd, but a regular guy. And I don't think he hurt himself considerably. So mild advantage to Trump Vance, because get this, Roby. How many people in the studio? 8, 7? 7 people could change their votes right now in Pennsylvania and maybe decide the presidency.
Right.
So that's what you got to consider. Any movement is potentially seismic movement. Vance is somewhat rehabbed, even though I think let's stop here. At his last answer, when he refused to accept the election.
Right. Obviously, that was a defining moment in the vice
I think
presidential
that's the
debate
memorable
for me,
thing.
so.
I think that may have mitigated, from the Democratic view, the gains he had made, because, and he didn't. All he said was, "I'm moving forward. I don't want to." So he didn't say, "I still think."
It was a non-answer.
It was, what would you call it, a damning non-answer, which was
I just
Waltz's.
called it a non-answer.
Yeah,
so.
I know, but I'm quoting Waltz in
Right.
the debate, which was, I think, his best moment. So everything I said is perhaps negated by the very ending on that issue.
All right, we got about a minute and a half left. Do you see anything on the horizon that could change the trajectory of the presidential race? I know we're all thinking it's going to come down to 2 or 3 states possibly, and just a small slice of voters there. I mean, war in the Middle East, the economy performing better than it has here at the very end, anything in these Trump filings that have come out, does anything potentially move that last little block of swing voters?
I believe as the world becomes more scary, the party in power suffers. I believe there's repercussions. So, and we're just looking for a little movement, as I explained, not just in Pennsylvania, but in other states. So I think Iran firing missiles at Israel and the response to that, coupled with Ukraine, coupled with incredible hurricane that got a swing state, North Carolina,
yeah.
with people mad at the government for lack of response. I think that's the biggest X factor right now. Now, we do have new filings which shed more light on how offensive Donald Trump behaved in trying to stay in the White House, but I think that's already baked in. I think people know what happened.
Right.
So I do believe there is a little bit of potential movement based on just the fact that things are messed up in the country and world with a hurricane and wars, that gives me a slight arrow up at the moment to the Trump side.
All right.
All right.
He's John Brummett. He's columnist with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Always good to have him with us.
Thanks for having me.
In person.
Yeah. All right.
I'll see you soon.
Okay.
All right.